Welcome to Beyond Ocean and Maine, MCM's news magazine program. I'm Robert Goitis. Founding both the Marshvegas Hometown Festival and the landscaping business Mulchoman, Colby Lauria has achieved a lot for one so young. Colby sat down with us to discuss how he was able to turn his passion into purpose.
I graduated from Marshfield High School in 2021. I have an older sister and 3 younger brothers. Just graduated from St. Lawrence University this spring, and I put together a festival in Marshfield called Marshvegas Festival. I lived in Marshfield my whole life, very fortunate to have done so. Marshfield is the foundation for who I am as a person, and especially on the entrepreneurial side of things. I started a backyard summer camp in Marshfield when I was in high school. I started a landscaping business, and I also started Marshvegas Festival, which I still continue to do to this day. Mulchoman is this landscaping business I started up last summer. It's a play on Macho Man, Randy Savage. We got a lot of clients for the name itself. People like the playfulness of that. And we have served 100 clients on the dot over the last 2 summers. Haven't been in operation for about 22 weeks. And we just work our butts off, so we were able to have the means to put together the festival in Marshfield. It's kind of funny. The idea from Mulchoman first came from really wanting to put together a festival in Marshfield. Deductive reasoning, I realized I needed some sort of flexible seasonal gig where I could really grind and earn my money quickly. And I've been doing landscaping for a friend the summer before, so I figured I'd start my own thing, and it's been going good. Marshvegas Festival is my baby. It is everything you could want in a family-friendly event. You have lemonade stands set up by kids, you have vendors set up by kids, bounce houses, live music, all at a great value. It's been free for the last 2 years, and that's been awesome, but going forward, you're gonna have to put a price on that ticket because festivals are expensive, but I can assure you one thing is that Marshvegas Festival will be the best value for an event you can get on the South Shore. The idea for Marshvegas Festival came from honestly just wanting to do something cool. I'm not very musically talented, but I wanted to be surrounded by music. I always loved bringing people together and building excitement, and back in July of 2022, I set a goal on a business card that I wanted to host a festival at the Marshfield Fairgrounds by 2027. And I've just allowed that goal to be the blueprint of every step I take each day. If I feel I'm working towards that goal slightly, whether it's learning how to do interviews or create content or putting together Marshvegas already, I feel as though I'm fulfilled and I'm aligning with my purpose. And that's how the idea for Marshvegas came about. Marshvegas Festival in terms of music is a combination of Marshfield and South Shore talent and national touring acts. We want to make sure we always have a Marshfield artist performing at Marshvegas, so kids that go to the show can be inspired that, hey, maybe one day I can be on that stage, because I see these high schoolers are also performing. The big draw for Marshvegas Festival is our annual Lemonade Wars competition, where kids set up lemonade stands, sell free lemonade, and compete for tips. There's this one kid this year, his name is Mikey, and he was going into the crowd with a sign, and he even had the headliner sponsor him in the middle of his set. He made $445 in tips in 4 hours selling free lemonade because he was hustling and his stand was beautiful. And that's what I want to create for kids, because everyone's setting up a lemonade stand at Marshfield, but we want to give them a platform to make them the best they can be. Concerning my work overall, what I'm most proud of is actually outside Marshfield. There's this event I put together when I was in college called Late Night Dana. And Late Night Dana essentially was, I turned my dining hall into a nightclub. That was so logistically unachievable that because it was able to happen from the relationships I was building with the school, that was really fulfilling at the time. And probably the most unique thing I put together, but outside that, 100% the Lemonade Wars competition at Marshfield. Because that's a concept from when I was growing up. I used to set up lemonade stands outside my house, and my mom told me I couldn't put a price on lemonade. I must put a sign that says free lemonade, tips are welcomed. And it's a concept of being courteous and being over generous, and you'll see that in return from people tipping you. And to be able to put that concept on a big stage like Marshvegas Festival is super fulfilling and a full circle moment. What I hope my work has brought to Marshfield is this hypothetical. I'll lay it out for you. A kid sees the Lemonade Wars competition, he signs up, he makes the most beautiful stand, best homemade lemonade. He goes into the crowd with his flyer, he's hustling, he's handing out samples, and he walks home that night with so much in tips that he goes home And he's like, you know what, Mom? I want to start a business. I want to start putting myself out there because I loved that process of building that and then being rewarded in doing so. If I'm able to have one kid from the Lemonade Wars competition go on to start his business that carries him throughout middle school and high school, my mission with Marshvegas is complete. That is exactly what I'm trying to achieve. We're already planning for year 3, but I just want to say thank you to all the fans, the parents, the kids, sponsors, vendors, donors, everyone who's contributed to Marshvegas Festival over the last 2 years. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. It's been a journey. It's been a lot of work and preparation and sacrifice. I don't even do the job search because I'm invested in this full time and I can see where it can go. www.marshvegasfest.com. We just revamped the website and you can click that button on that website. I'll give you all the updates for anything related to 2026. There's a lot I'm looking forward to for next year's festival, but honestly, I'm just trying to lay out the pieces for now. What I'm most excited about next year's festival is I'm finally building out a strong team. This summer, I was too invested in the work that I could only manage to put together an internship program. But next year, we're gonna have a festival director, we're gonna have a vendor coordinator, graphic designer, someone to do sponsorship outreach. It's gonna be a whole infrastructure. And that's what I'm excited about personally. Maybe not so much that's maybe not too excited from a fan point of view, but I'm excited that next year I think it's gonna be really polished festival.
The town of Marshfield has recently granted the Citizen of the Year award to Andrea Robbins. MCM was lucky enough to discuss with Andrea her life here as a Marshfield resident and what she has brought to the community.
I grew up in Marshfield, graduated from Marshfield High in 1990. I moved out to Chicago after college and then back to Massachusetts and eventually found my way back to Marshfield, and I live about a mile from where I grew up. I live here with my husband Greg and our 3 kids, Catherine, Andrew, and Caroline. I loved growing up in Marshfield. My parents were teachers, and so we had a lot of time as a family in the summer and spent a lot of time at the beach at Avon Street and Burke's Beach, and it kind of shaped my idea of like a perfect childhood should be, and went to public schools because my parents were public school teachers, and gave me a real appreciation for everything that Marshfield had to offer, both kind of as like a lovely place to grow up, but also a really great place to build my foundation as a person. And so I always knew that I'd love to bring my family back here and be able to raise our kids here as well. So Simple Gesture, it's a program that is designed to make giving back to the food pantry, giving to the community as easy as possible. There's really no one who doesn't want to support the food pantry. It's just the logistics of how do you get your donation there. So it's built on the premise that people would be willing to give if they could just find a way to make it easy. So Simple Gesture allows people to do that in that we give them a bag, they fill it with their donation, they put it out on their front step, and then we have volunteer drivers who make routes through town to pick up those donations, bring them to the food pantry, and then we have volunteers who organize, sort through all the donations so they can go right onto the shelves at the food pantry. It was 2018. It was the week of Ash Wednesday, and I couldn't decide what to give up for Lent. And so then I decided that I would do something extra to make up for not giving something up. But I also didn't know what to do. And so I happened to be reading an article in the Patriot Ledger that was about a Simple Gesture Hanover. And it was that thunderbolt moment where I thought, that's it, that's what I should do. And so I reached out to the programs in Hanover and Norwell and talked to them about their programs and used those as the basis for developing the Marshfield program. There are Simple Gesture programs across the country. It was started by a fellow out in the West Coast who I saw that need and filled it, and so it slowly spread. So there are pockets of Simple Gesture programs across the country, but so excited that Marshfield has embraced it to the degree that it has. So my path has kind of followed the trajectory of the kids. So I did, when they were younger, I was a class parent and I was the treasurer of the PTO at South River. I've always coached their basketball teams. So from first grade through high school rec for my son. I did Marshfield rec basketball, also travel basketball for our son and our younger daughter. I served as one of the presidents of the Parents Association where my girls did Irish dance. Then I got into working with the Marshfield Education Foundation, working with Grad Night Live, first as just a volunteer, but now I serve on the board for both of those. I still coach now that my kids are out of the town basketball program. I coach with a program called Impact Athletics, which offers sports opportunities to kids who have physical and intellectual challenges. So I do that. And this past year, I worked with the high school to start a program that's a volunteer fair for the kids at the high school now that they have community service requirements. We brought in a whole range of community service organizations so the kids could meet those organizations and find opportunities for volunteer work that aligned with what their interests were. So I first learned that I had been honored as the Citizen of the Year when Laura reached out to me, and she caught me like during the workday, and I was just so surprised and honored and shocked, and I really didn't know what to say, which is unusual because I always have a lot to say. But I was just thrilled and so honored and surprised by being named the Citizen of the Year. It was, again, such an honor to be named, but I also took it as an opportunity to kind of shine a spotlight on all the wonderful opportunities there are here in town for people to give back, no matter how little time or effort they can put into it, that there's always a way to give back. And so I was excited to kind of talk about the different things that I have done and the way the programs work to make sure that people understand that there's always something you can do to give back. And I really love to shine a light on Marshfield and what a giving community it is. I have found through simple gesture, no matter what our need is, however outrageous I think the ask might be, that people will always step up and help. And so I think it's a real testament to Marshfield as a community, how giving and generous the people are. And my experience of working with a lot of different organizations has really brought that to light for me. I don't think I'll ever give up on the community service. It's a great balance between doing that and work. And so, it gives me a sense that I'm giving back to the community. So finding new ways, now that the kids have kind of grown out of some of their programs, that opens the door for me to find new things to do in town. So I would be thrilled if our work, especially with Simple Gesture and the volunteer fair, of engaging younger people in community service, presenting opportunities for folks who are of the younger age to get involved, to see that they can do things that make a difference in their community. So I hope that kind of a legacy, if you will, would be more engagement and passion for and appreciation for the volunteer opportunities in Marshfield. What I would add is a big thank you to all the people who support me and are part of the different organizations I work with. I may have been the one up on stage the other night, but I would not have gotten there without my husband putting up with every idea and being willing to sit down to dinner at 9 o'clock at night because we're not home because I'm out doing something. My kids get dragged to everything and they've been enthusiastic, but there's so many people that have pitched in. Simple Gesture wouldn't happen without Jen Trodden and Sue Leary and Sharon Studley and Nicole Sands, the great people I've met through MEF, through Grad Night Live. And so kind of being part of that and part of those organizations and having everyone work together, I'm so thankful that I get to work with those people and have met them, and the stuff that I do would not be possible without the support of my family and the friends I've made in town.
Finest Kind, Tales of a Brant Rock Lobsterman is a book about Donald Staples, a World War II veteran and longtime Marshfield resident. Sandra Staples Bortner, the author of the book and Donald's daughter, discuss with us her father's service and contributions to Marshfield.
The book I've written is called Finest Kind, Tales of a Brant Rock Lobsterman. It's a biography of Donald Staples, a lobsterman here in Brant Rock, and he was my father. And the book is called The Finest Kind because he truly was the finest kind. That's an old Maine expression that means the very best, and he showed us how to live a great life. My father was always telling us stories about the hard times growing up in the Great Depression, a family of 8 children here in Brant Rock. And he also spoke often of his stories of his time as a 17-year-old at the Battle of Okinawa. These are really important to him. But as he got older in his 80s, they became very important to him. He didn't want them to be forgotten. He repeated them often. And I thought, well, write the stories down. Maybe he'll feel comforted that we won't forget the stories. And I started to realize that, these stories mean a lot to me too. They're part of my family heritage. And the more I talked to other folks about my father, I realized that the book is really a story of all the lobstermen of Brant Rock and about Brant Rock as a community and just coastal New England, really. My father was a man who was respected among his colleagues as being hardworking, always very ethical, professional, strong. Always tried to describe him as a strong man, but I think that physically strong, but also I think he was mentally strong and he was very resilient. He was a leader of his profession here in Brant Rock, an early president of the South Shore Lobster Fishermen's Association, and he went on to become 2-decade-long director of the Massachusetts Lobstermen's Association, which was founded by the South Shore Lobster Fishermen's Association. So he had a lot of interest in ensuring the profession was doing well, and the lobsters themselves were protected and were going to be there for future fishermen and for our future lovers of eating lobster. He was always one who spent a long time mentoring young people. He wanted to make sure they would come into the profession. He wanted to make them feel they had a place for them there. My father was always bringing along young people into the profession as much as he could, but really he was just making sure that people always had the help they needed. So when he was in his early 30s, there was a boy in the neighborhood here in Brant Rock who spent the spring. That time all the lobster boats came out of the water, spent the winter in the boatyard, and come spring they spent all the time scraping barnacles, putting fresh paint on, repairing mechanical breakdowns and things like that. And this young man, Richard, spent a long time helping there just because it was a fun thing to do. And when they finally got the boats in the water, and this was the Sandra E, a boat that's named after me that there were the stories about, Richard was invited out to join my father on the boat just to learn what it was like to hauling pots. The first day Richard went out as this young boy, so he needed more adult figures in his life. And he had a pair of black rubber boots his grandma had bought him just for around the marsh here. And he put a black scuff mark on the newly painted deck of the lobster boat, of the Sandra E. And my father noticed it. And so the next day, Richard didn't wear the boots. Several days later, my father and another lobsterman showed up at Richard's home, knocked on the door and presented him with a pair of hip waders, which fishermen wore. And Richard, he still has them in his 80s because they were assigned to the lobstermen, respected him as part of that community. And, again, that's one example of the older lobsterman too. He was kind of keeping an eye on the younger folks that came in. Many lobstermen see young fishermen as competitors. My father seemed to view them as an important colleague, and he showed them respect that sometimes they didn't get from other fishermen. It's a book about lobstering in coastal New England, but it's also very many fascinating stories about the Battle of Okinawa. That's the last battle of the Pacific Theater, and he was there as a 17-year-old, came almost straight from boot camp there, and yet right away he raised his hand when they asked who knew how to run a small boat. And from day one, he was put in charge of a small launch. He was on a seaplane tender. He took the flight crews and the repair crews out to the seaplanes, which are moored in the harbor there. This is off of Okinawa, and brought them back again. And oftentimes he would take the captain to other ships too and bring the mail to other ships. So in just that short time, he was the youngest 17-year-old third class on a ship of 1,000, crew of 1,000 people, sailors. So he was the kind of man that just always stood out somehow. He always stepped up to his challenges. I self-published my book. It is available worldwide distribution, really, on any bookstore, online. They all can order it if they don't have it on their stock. So you can go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any bookstore and just say, please order this book for me or send me a copy. My goal, first of all, in writing this book was to honor my father because he truly was an ordinary man who led an extraordinary life and showed us how to be the finest kind. And I also wanted to recognize the many lobstermen here in Brant Rock. And some people call us Brant Rock or Green Harbor or Marshfield, but as a girl, this is the harbor in Brant Rock for me. And so I want to recognize their continuing lobster business is still here going well. These fishermen are working just as hard as my father ever did. They're adapting to the times as he adapted to the times, and so we should all be proud of having these folks in our community. I'm so happy that my father is recognized for being the special person he was. One of the people I interviewed many people for this book, and one of the people said to me, he had that kind of spirit that made you want to do your very best. So I think that, I don't know if the Yankee spirit, or he was very resilient and independent, but he also was always reaching out to others. He was known for the twinkle in his blue eyes and the smile on his face. He was a friendly person, outgoing, and up until his final days was still reaching out to other people in his life. Many people told me that it's kind of showing them the way to live a life that is rewarding, fulfilling. My father had many challenges in his life. We lost many of our family members young. He was in war, in the Depression. He always found his way around that, and he did it with zeal and always optimism, and he never brought him down. He was a man who was always looking for the next challenge. One of his lobster boats was named Challenge, and I think he just recognized that his life was always a challenge, and he was always going to step up to it.
Veterans Park in Marshfield is currently undergoing extensive renovations, including an ecological restoration. Committees and organizations involved with the project sat down with MCM to talk about the renovations and what they will bring to the town.
What's happening here is the ecological restoration, as I said, of a segment or section of the South River, which you can see behind me. There used to be a dam over by that white building. That dam has been removed, and in its place you can see various weirs, about 5 weirs. Those weirs create riffles and pools for migratory fish to migrate up the South River, where they have been unable to do so for the past 400 years. So the idea was to remove the dam, allow for greater fish migration by anadromous fish, and enhance the park in the process, because the two projects are very closely intertwined. The people involved in the project involve the North and South Rivers Watershed Association, the Marshfield Conservation Commission, the Marshfield Department of Public Works, the National Fishery and Wildlife Foundation, and a Community Preservation Commission, which is also a town body. The park has been established since 1940, and it's been pretty much a place where people can go and honor the veterans. But over time, like anything else, it needs some care and maintenance and some rehabilitation. And this project will provide that type of improvements to the park. But the park is very heavily used. It's reserved a lot for weddings and receptions of various types. It's a very scenic park, and people like to use it because of its relationship to the river. So it was designed to basically honor the veterans, male veterans, female veterans, and then all veterans. The heart-shaped lagoon that is being rehabilitated is designed to honor the service of all veterans from the town. The new fountain will be placed in the lagoon. That fountain is specifically designed to honor the female veterans that have served from the town of Marshfield. And the water wheel, which will be replaced, which was an iconic element of the park, that's to honor the male veterans. That is going to be completely rebuilt by the gentleman who built it in the first place.
Well, our role has been really to bring the parties together, to convene people around and to hopefully build support for the project. We have been involved since about 2012. We started looking and have been monitoring for fish at this site for some time with citizen scientists, and noticed that clearly the fish passage was not working well. And so we started to talk to the town of Marshfield, and in particular the veterans who, are really stewards of that park, to talk to them about ways that we could improve the situation. And so our role has really been to kind of we were a bit of an instigator, but we are also kind of a convener to bring together partners, to bring together resources, financial resources, to provide education about the reasons for why we would want to remove a dam, and just work with the town and the veterans to figure out how we could both serve their needs as well as the fisheries and the rivers, ecological needs.
So the main role of the Conservation Commission is to permit the projects and overall project management. So working with the engineers, the consultants, the DPW, the Veterans Park caretaker, in the commission itself to make sure that the project runs smoothly and on budget.
All the work is being done because there was a desire by the Watershed Association and the town of Marshfield to remove the dam to enhance fish passage and fish migration up the South River. We could not do that, remove that dam, without involving the improvements to the Veterans Park. Then there are a bunch of other improvements that are going to be made in terms of allowing people to have access up to the river. I mean, you can see the stone wall. That's a new peninsula that did not exist before. People will be able to access that peninsula and close to the river because we're going to put in 2 ADA compliant bridges to allow people to come in to the site. We have a series of monitoring elements that will be used to monitor the water levels. And the redesign of the park is oriented toward being able to control water levels in the park, in the lagoon, through the water wheel, and in the river.
Prior to this, we had our river restoration work completed in January. So in January, the dam at Veterans Park came down and a temporary bypass was created through the park in order to allow for fish passage during the spring migration season. That bypass was incredibly successful. We saw fish get up the South River and reach sections of the river they haven't reached in over 300 years. The fish made it all the way up to the next barrier on the river, which is Chandler Pond Dam. Over the summer, that bypass was filled in and the river itself was reconnected. And we have a new series of riffles and pools that will significantly increase fish passage through this stretch of the river.
We're anticipating that 95% of this project will be finished by the end of November. The other 5%, it may in fact be 100%, but we have to come back in the spring to go through a punch list of things that have gone wrong or developed during the winter, and we also have to finalize the landscaping on this part of the river where we sit now, and then there's going to be some more landscaping across the river on the actual park site. All that has to be checked in the spring to make sure it survived the winter.
Something we hope to achieve has already been achieved, and that is the fish run. This spring, herring were streaming up that river. And it's pretty interesting because that's been blocked for almost 400 years. But the fish still knew how to go and where to go. So we are extremely happy about that. Well, I hope it will bring more usage to the park. It's going to be lovely when this work is done. I hope it'll bring visitors to Veterans Park, the South River Park, and going forward, we may have a new piece of that linkage. And I also hope it will ultimately result in additional dams being removed to restore even a longer portion of the South River.
We think that by having people actually see the fish going up, that it will help people to understand the value that these projects can have. And we hope that it will diminish the maintenance burden to some degree. But our hope is that, particularly because of its visibility in the community, that people will really become more engaged with this kind of effort, and we can use it as an opportunity to share what we understand about the river with them.
This concludes this edition of Beyond Ocean and Maine. Tune in next time. I'm Robert Goitis. Thank you very much for watching.